Hey guys, JamesMCD Reviews here, and Merry Christmas! Even though this is going up a couple days after Christmas. God damn. So first off, I gotta say thank you all so much for watching my videos and subscribing and liking all my stuff. It has been an absolutely crazy year this year. 2019 has been absolutely insane. And one of the things keeping me stable throughout this whole year have been my YouTube channels and getting to share my passions with you guys, and the fact that you guys are actually watching, it just means the world to me. Seriously guys, thank you so much. And as 2019 comes to a close and as we prepare to move forward into the new decade, I think it's about time we look back at some of this year's greatest highs and lowest lows. Yes, it's time once again for the top 10 best and worst movies of 2019. Much like last year, we're going to be starting off with the worst, just so we can end on a high note. A few things I want to get out of the way before we start. Number one, this is my own personal list. This is my own opinion. There might be some movies on here that you actually liked or you don't think is fair to put on here. Or alternatively, you might think there are some movies that are not on here that deserve to be on here. I encourage you to leave your lists down in the comments. I'll be curious to see what you guys have to say. Also, keep in mind, these are not the top 10 definitive worst movies of the year. There's no like scientific evidence to back any of this up. This is just my opinion, and as I said earlier, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Also, keep in mind that I am not a professional that sees every single movie that comes out this year. There were quite a few movies that I wanted to see that I didn't get around to, or there were some movies that came out where I was just like, I don't really want to waste $10 on that. So if there is a movie that you feel is missing, it is probably because I just didn't see it, whether that was intentionally or not. Right, that's all the prerequisites out of the way. Before we get started, let's go through the honorable mentions. These are the 5 movies where if I was doing a bottom 15 list, then these would make it on. But as is, they were still bad, but not bad enough to make the cut. Replicas, the Keanu Reeves sci-fi thriller-ish that is so absolutely terrible that it loops back around and becomes hilarious at the end. Captain Marvel. I felt like I was being a bit too nice to this movie, but trust me, it is not the worst superhero movie to come out this year. Aladdin. Similarly to Captain Marvel, it is not the worst live-action Disney movie to come out this year, but it is still pretty disappointing. Godzilla King of Monsters. Take away the cool action and all the monsters fighting, and you've got a pretty standard movie with some boring characters and nothing really happening. Playmobil. A shameless knockoff of the Lego Movie. Nothing more, nothing less. Right, those are all the honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get on with the list. Number 10. Charlie's Angels. I honestly don't know why I saw this movie. I knew from the trailers what I was getting into, and I got pretty much exactly what I expected. Bad jokes, lame action, a predictable story, bad acting, cheesy effects, a forced girl power message. Basically a bland, forgettable action comedy that would be swept under the rug if not for the Charlie's Angels label. So why did I go see it? In all honesty, I think I just needed an excuse to get out of my room, and this was the only thing playing. Why do I do these things to myself? While this movie is bad, it's only the beginning of our list. We've still got 9 more films on here that are far, far worse. Number 9. Hellboy 2019. I'm not gonna pretend I know anything about Hellboy. I haven't seen the movies and I haven't read the comics, but if I thought this movie was bad as a casual viewer, I can't begin to imagine how pissed off actual Hellboy fans were. While the movie does offer a solid performance by David Harbour and some pretty cool makeup, the story is bland and confusing, the dialogue is too exposition heavy, the action loses all its coolness before the movie is even over, and the effects look like an actual cartoon. I'm sure there are more things I could point out as bad if I actually knew the source material, but even still, this was a very disappointing flick that should have stayed in the depths of hell where it belonged.
I interrupt!
On the contrary, you've arrived just in time.
Number 8. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. A late entry to this list, but a worthy entry nonetheless. I had my concerns about this movie after various plot leaks and the drama between Bob Iger and George Lucas made its way online, but even still, I held out hope that this movie could offer a satisfying conclusion. Unfortunately, this is far from the case. This movie is so bad it actually makes the prequels look credible. The absolute lack of effort, the rushed storyline, the unnecessary retcons, the uninteresting characters, the overblown nonsensical climax, all of these elements come together to make a movie that is not only bad on its own, but lessens the impact of the other movies, making this whole journey we've gone on feel absolutely pointless. For all the problems in The Last Jedi, it at least felt like it was taking Star Wars in a new direction, whereas this just can't let go of the past and brings us right back to the status quo. The fact that Marriage Story is on Netflix and this piece of shit is in over 3,000 theaters is utterly insulting. As far as Star Wars goes, outside of The Mandalorian and whatever other TV shows they're putting together, this single-handedly killed my interest in the franchise. Disney should just stop making the movies and enjoy coasting off the merch sales. Overall, the Force was not strong with this one.
The Force will be with you.
Always.
5 Feet Apart. After I saw this movie, I looked up to see what people with cystic fibrosis thought of it. And to my surprise, a lot of people seemed to enjoy it. And I mean, while I'm glad they got something good out of the movie that they could connect to, if I was a patient with CF going to see this, I would be very concerned. On top of just being a poorly written love story with cheesy dialogue, terrible characters, and actors that have zero chemistry, this movie wants to educate on cystic fibrosis as well as the rules, limitations, and dangers of it. But then towards the third act, the movie just completely abandons everything they just said. They have our main lead make some absolutely retarded and even near fatal decisions, not just putting herself in danger, but also the boy she supposedly loves. And this is played off as sweet or emotional. No, this could actually kill someone. So much so that I'm honestly surprised more people haven't been talking about it. Like I said, I don't want to ruin the experience for anyone that liked it, and if you did, that's great. But for anyone looking for a realistic portrayal of CF as well as a good movie, you might want to stay 5 feet apart from this one. Number 6. Ugly Dolls. It was kind of a toss-up between which LEGO movie knockoff would make this list, and ultimately this movie got the edge over Playmobil. And not without reason either. This movie was painful. The bargain bin animation style, the soulless corporate storyline with a message you can figure out just by watching the trailers, the horrendous voice cast.
I love literal naming. Isn't that right, gibberish cat?
Shut up! And the soundtrack, so god-awful that I would rather listen to 2.5 hours of ear rape because that would sound more pleasant. While Playmobil was just as bad and just as much of a corporate shill, at least I had fun watching it. This was a chore to get through. I didn't even have fun ironically. I mean, as far as I know, not that many people saw this movie, and they should consider themselves lucky. Because to put it simply, this movie was ugly. Number 5. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. What parallel universe am I in where me and my girlfriend saw this and Dora in the exact same night, and it was Dora that ended up being the better movie? This movie could have been cool. I personally haven't read the books, but I have seen some of the illustrations and they do look pretty creepy. But nope, we've got to do the Goosebumps formula, where these kids find a magic book and all the creatures from the book come to life and there's some sort of curse and ugh. Why did you have to take something that had so much potential and water it down to the most basic and predictable premise? Even the deaths aren't allowed to be that cool because of the dreaded PG-13 rating. The characters are all unlikable idiots, the dialogue sounds like a kindergartner wrote it, and the story structure is lazy, uninspired, and really, this should have been an anthology. Oh, and apparently this is getting a sequel too. Until then, I'm putting this scary story back on the shelf.
Okay, we saw it. Should we go now?
Number 4. Dark Phoenix. The final outing of the X-Men produced by Fox. And as expected, they go out not with a bang, but with a whimper. I honestly struggle to think of anything I actually liked in this movie. The characters are all bland, none of them had good arcs, all the actors just sound like they're waiting for their paycheck so they can go home. The effects are messy, the story makes no sense, and I was fighting to stay awake. It's a shame because I do really like these actors, and for the most part, I thought they gave good performances in the other movies, but here, they're just given nothing to work with. Maybe everyone knew that no matter what they did in this movie, it wouldn't matter because they're just gonna get rebooted anyway, so fuck it, let's just sleepwalk our way through this. I don't know, but what I do know is, in a series full of highs and lows, this was an extremely disappointing send-off for this team of mutants. Here's hoping Disney will do you right in the next few years.
That would be a bad idea.
Number 3. The Lion King, 2019. You know, I always thought the phrase ruined my childhood was a bit over the top until I saw this movie. I mean, Christ's sake, at least Aladdin, for all its flaws, tried to give us something interesting. This has nothing. Absolutely no effort, completely void of creativity, charm, emotion, character, or anything that made the original so great. The animation, yeah, I don't care how realistic it looks, it's still animation, is ugly, colorless, and boring. The expressions convey absolutely zero emotion, which is made even more upsetting when the actors in this do genuinely try, which is only the case 30% of the time, but still. The songs sound like ass, they completely ruin Be Prepared and Hakuna Matata, and it's long. It is so long, and it drags out scenes that don't even need to be dragged out. I mean, clearly this didn't kill the live-action reboot trend for Disney, as there are more on the way next year. But hopefully this got people to wake up and realize that Disney shouldn't try to fix what was never broken. Number 2. After. Exactly what the world needed. A PG-13 50 Shades of Grey. Except somehow this movie managed to be even more painful to sit through. This story is so nonsensical, so predictable, so melodramatic, and so poorly written, you could mistake this as a fan fiction. In fact, it was! Yeah, like 50 Shades, this movie was based off a pedophilic One Direction fanfiction the author wrote about Harry Styles. Lovely. The terrible dialogue paired with the piss-poor acting, uninspired characters, and cliched plot made this one of the most taxing movies to sit through this year. The only question is, what could possibly be worse? Well... And the number 1 worst movie of 2019, yeah, you already know what it is. It's fucking Medea! I mean, ow! Never has a movie been so bad and so aggravating that it physically hurt to sit through. No joke, I actually left this movie with a banging headache. It was loud, it was obnoxious, the jokes were painfully unfunny, which was made even worse by the howling audience in the theater. The tone is all over the place, the editing and camera work are so bad you could mistake this for a Dan Schneider production, and it drags on and on and on. This movie was only like 90 minutes, but it felt like 4 fucking hours! I've heard that this is the last of these Madea movies, and if so, thank Christ, because this was insufferable. But if they do make more, I'll know to avoid them like the plague. Unless I get peer pressured into seeing them. But hey, if that's the case, at least I'll always have a movie to occupy the spot of worst movie of the year.
I know it's about funerals. I done buried a lot of men. A lot of them.
That funeral gonna be messed up.
And there you go. Those were the top 10 worst movies of 2019. I'm so glad I did this list, so now I don't have to think about these pieces of shit anymore. I'm gonna go lay down for a little bit, but what did you guys think of this video? What are your own personal lists of worst movies of 2019? Leave all that stuff down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next couple of days where you'll get to see my best of 2019 list. Let's end this year on a high note. Until then, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and see you later.